All right, my clock says 11 a.m., so we're going to go ahead and get started. If you have not yet put your name and library into the chat, would you please go ahead and add that now? I know some have, but if you just logged on and have not done that, jump in there and get it onto the chat. So, exciting new news. We have a new circulation committee member, Jennifer Mathis. She's from Jefferson County. If you have your screen on, you can see her there if you might wave. So we wanted to welcome her to the committee, and she doesn't know it yet, but she's going to get thrown into some things at the end of the committee meeting. We're going to be talking about the committee doing some things. So yeah, I told her, I did try to give her a good, accurate picture of what we would do, but here you go with our first project. So anyway, moving on, number 2, the deleting / purging project is going on, and this will probably be my last in-person verbal reminder to go ahead and get those old accounts deleted. Equinox will be purging those in January. I will probably send out at least one more email reminder about that. And if you are having any kind of trouble at all with getting through either running the report, managing doing it, you need help, email me. I could probably beg Diane to, if there was a huge influx of people that needed help, but reach out if you are struggling and having trouble with getting that done, and we'll try and jump in and help where we can. I do not have the date of that actual purge yet. When I send out that final reminder in December, I'll try to have that date kind of locked down so that technically, as long as it was done by that date, your accounts that were deleted would be included. So I'll let you know on that. Just in the listserv I saw going around, Kate sent out a reminder about labeling our packages or tubs or bags or whatever your library is using to send things through the courier. So on the agenda that I sent out, I just copied, I went to Mala and copied what they are suggesting. So well, it's really more than a suggestion. I guess it's really what they want us to do. So if you have courier bags, place the label in the clear label display window. Tubs, totes, and other packages, affix a label to the package. If you're using a box or something that you have used before, make sure that old address is totally blacked up, out, or covered, so that the only routing label on there is where you want it to go now, so that there's no confusion. And then for packages and boxes, they need to be labeled on the top and at least one side. Now, I don't know how, I don't know if it seems like if you're putting it on the side, maybe you might need more than one side. But anyway, at least one side. I don't know how the couriers handle it once they get it to the hubs and things, but since they are asking us to put 2 on, let's make sure that we are doing it. And I realize the people that I'm talking to right here may not be the ones who physically are doing that. And so if you are not the one who is physically doing that, could you just put a little bug in the person who is doing it ear so that we can keep things flowing as smoothly as possible, and it'll also make things go quicker, so our patrons do not have to wait as long for packages to get from one side of the state to another. Okay, moving on to D. We are one of the things that we are considering doing some training on is offline circulation for when your internet goes down. I don't know about any of you all, but we just had such a terrible day yesterday at Cass County. We were working with Morenet. It was an exercise in frustration to get anything checked out. It would go through, and then lag, go through, lag all day long. So that's why you were seeing me from home today, because I could not be sure that our internet at my branch was going to be stable enough to maintain even this meeting. So what I would appreciate you doing, and I know I'm causing you some trouble with this, but if you are on this Zoom call, would you in the chat indicate, do you use offline mode when your internet goes down? Put it in your chat. And if you do not use the offline circulation, what do you do instead? So if you could put that in the chat, then I could kind of I'll be able to see that at the end of the meeting, and we can kind of get a better feel for, is this something that people want to learn more about? I guess if you don't use it and you want to learn more about it, put that in there also, so that we don't want to be, we want our training times to be as productive as they can be, and we also want them to be on things that are going to be beneficial to all the libraries. So just a quick, if you would not mind sharing, what do you do if you do not use offline circulation? Okay, I see Belinda saying we use Excel or Google Sheets, depending on if it's an internet problem or Evergreen problem. That's true. It could depend.
We always had such bad luck with the offline mode going back to the Zool client that we just never felt like we could trust it. And we just write all of our checkouts. We write down the patron's name or look up their number in our card file, write down the barcodes of what they're checking out, and just catch up later. Check-ins, we just set to the side and scan them all when it's back up. And mostly this only happens for us when it is an evergreen outage. Our internet is pretty stable.
Has anybody had, I remember this was before we were with Evergreen. We had a 3-day, so we're talking lots and lots of checkouts, 3 days of internet being down. So has anybody experienced anything like that? And if you were not using offline, how did that go for you?
This is Leanne at Barry Lawrence. I think the only time we really used the offline through Evergreen was when we migrated, and we're, happy to still stay open and do stuff while they got everything in the system. So it was really just that, maybe a couple days worth of things. But with our multiple branches, it's just too complicated because I'm really the only one that would really be able to transfer everything. And so we've got, 9 different computers we'd be happy to transfer the files over from.
Yeah.
So we just have everyone do either like Notepad, Excel sheet, scan the barcodes, have the patron name and a title as well, if they can, to kind of reference, and then do everything back later when we're back up.
Diane, I know you guys, Scenic uses it.
We did forever because I'm a big proponent of letting the machine do the work. But I always had a complaint from staff that the shortcut on the desktop didn't work. At one branch, it rarely do we have to use offline circ, but it seems like at one branch there'd be at least one workstation that could not bring up the offline mode from the shortcut. So the last time Evergreen went down a month or so ago, I was done. There was a problem at multiple branches and I was just done with it. So I thought, I think I may be the only library that's still using offline mode. And it is a issue at one branch, no matter what. So we ditched it, and now I've sent out instructions for using an Excel sheet instead. I'm leery of writing down numbers because with 80 employees, somebody is going to transpose a number and we're going to check something out to somebody who actually didn't leave the building with it. But yes, and I'm looking at the chat. I don't see anybody that says, yes, we use offline mode.
Diane, the you mentioned them writing it down. Our staff just have to use our barcode scanners, and that just puts it into the Excel sheet for them.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we don't
we-
have to
yeah,
worry about the user error.
Exactly. We scan and put it in an Excel sheet. I thought I heard somebody or saw somebody say they write it down. And I'm just afraid if somebody with a pencil in their hand is going to make a mistake. Fortunately, it doesn't happen very often.
We're the ones that write it down, but we only have like 3 or 4 clerks an entire day in one branch, you know. And I think some of them will even write down the barcode and a little bit of the title as a cross check.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah,
evidently, if it hasn't caused you any problems, since you keep doing that, so that it's working for you.
Yeah, in the past, we have had like just a paper form with lines, and it had a place for the item barcode, a brief title, patron barcode, and a name. And so you could cross-reference that, and, staff would manually do that. But we did find now that we can do just Notepad or Excel. It is quicker that you're not having to fully write all the barcodes, but you can kind of make notes of the patron names and titles as a reference as well. And we usually keep those forms, if it was handwritten, for reference for at least a while if there was a question. That way you could kind of look back through those forms.
Okay, here's a secondary question that inquiring minds want to know. How are you handling, I guess it depends on what your library did with the Secretary of State thing now, where you have to have this parental signature. Is that changing how you do anything when the internet is down?
We wouldn't have to do anything differently because we started using a whole new schema for our patron barcodes. So we'll be able to see if we've got a 10-year-old standing in front of us. If they don't have a barcode with that number, then their parents haven't given them permission to use it.
Okay. Anybody else?
Rhonda, Poplar Bluff isn't gonna do anything different, but I think for me, it would go in the same vein of, this card might be expired and we don't realize it, or, there might be a bill and we don't realize it. Like, life happens and we'll fix it when we figure it out.
Right. Okay.
Rhonda, could you repeat your question? I had a phone call just right when you asked that.
Oh, sure. I was just saying, in light of the Secretary of State's ruling for parental signatures for minors, is that changing what you would plan to do or how you would do it if the internet was down?
That's just we have no way of knowing that, I guess, when they're standing in front of you, if we don't have the computer access to it to know.
Right. Do you require the actual physical library card, or is like
Yes.
what
We
is
require the card, but we can't tell if they've recently updated it or, if
Right.
it's expired or whatever.
right? Or are you accepting like the Missouri Evergreen app
Yes,
barcode?
yes,
Couldn't think of what a
yeah. We
Get
have a
my
lot of people who
brain
take
now.
a photo of their card and we
Okay.
take the photo, or yes, either way.
So
Okay.
on our physical minor card, we're actually punching a star on the minor cards. So that means the parent has signed the form. And so I haven't had an experience yet with offline situation and having to, you know, go through a minor situation. But if they handed me a card that had a star on it, I would know that mom has given permission. So I guess that's
Sure.
our solution to that.
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess it just kind of was running through my mind yesterday when NRC was having such a hard time, is are we going to have to switch to offline? And I hadn't really thought through some of those issues, or if it isn't issue in the first place. I wasn't sure, so.
I love the idea of punching a star in it. That's a good idea, because we do require the physical card usually. I mean, most people give us a physical card.
Mhm.
But, and you know, it's the same with if somebody owes us, you know, $100 and they just happen to come in the day and our system is down, then, you know, well, oops.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, I appreciate you putting anything in the chat that you did. Diane was kind of looking at it. I mean, I'm just not sure that it's worth offering some kind of training on offline if, I mean, and I know this is a small polling, but if the majority of us are not using is that, I'm just not sure that that feels like the best use of our training opportunities. So thank you for that. Question also came up, what do you do, or for those libraries who use RFID tags, what would you like us to do if an item makes its way back to us and it has your RFID tag still in the item? What do we do with those?
Okay, this is probably talking about Poplar Bluff because I've gotten some emails. Um, if you get one of our RFID tags, it is not worth it. I mean, you could send it back in the courier if you happen to be sending them back with other books, and we'll be glad to take them, but you can also just throw it away like Wilmot did.
Yeah, I agree with Belinda. It would be nice to have them back because we have to pay for those. But if, you know, don't go to a lot of trouble to find an envelope, put it in there and send it back if it's inconvenient. Mostly I'm just chagrined when that happens. And I send my sincere apologies when things get back to a lending library that still has a temporary RFID tag on it. But
Okay.
do let us know. I will say this. Do let us know if something gets back to you with an RFID tag on it, and when you try to peel it off, it damages your item, because we will pay for that.
I second that. Poplar Bluff will do the same. I definitely want to know if it's causing damage to items because we've had some change in our tag stock, so that has happened recently.
Okay, so I'm curious because we do not do any kind of tagging. So your permanent collection, you put the hidden in the spine, under the back covers, I'm assuming, is that correct? That's a permanent affixed tag? And then
It's not, ours are not invisible. They're on the last, it's not a page, it's on the end board,
Yeah.
inside the end board, and it's like 1 inch by 1.5 inches.
Okay.
And it's a permanent tag. And occasionally, once or twice when we first started using RFID, a staff member would put a permanent tag on one of your items, and then it is not ever coming off.
That's what I was wondering. So so anything that comes in through the courier that's from one of our libraries, you put a temporary tag on so that it gets out the door, or it's for your statistical tracking? What are you using it for on one of my items? I'm just curious.
Okay, we put a permanent tag on an Avery removable label so that we can put the removable label on your item and put it on our public hold shelf, and patrons can pick things up from the public hold shelf and take them to the self-check machine and check everything out. If we did not put the temporary labels on your items, and we program your barcode onto our tag, and if we didn't do that, then patrons could check out some things at the self-check, but some they would have to bring to the front desk. And you can imagine what would happen in a patron's brain if they're trying to figure out these things I can check out at self-check and these things I cannot. So it is security, so your things won't go out the door. except there are ways to get around that too, but they won't go out the door without being checked out, but also that everything that the patron is picking up can be checked out one way.
Okay. That explains that. Because I didn't think about that.
Just, I'm very sorry when our tags are left on your things.
Okay, so if I'm to summarize what has been said, if it is reasonably convenient, put them in an envelope, send them back to the owning library. If not, let them know that some things got at least to you so that they can kind of talk to the people who are doing that. Is that a fair summary? Okay. All right. Number F, Diane has been diligently working on I say generic, but it's no library specific, I guess, circulation procedure manual that we could post on our website for every library to have a reference of, okay, how do I do this? They could go and see a generic fashion. It does exist on the Evergreen documentation, but that is a little bit cumbersome to, I don't know if you've ever read through it all, but it's a little bit cumbersome trying to find what you want to find in it. And so well, we just want to have something that we can post on our website that everybody can look at and say, okay, this is how we should be doing those things. So she has completed the initial work on this project, which is no small feat, I would like to say. It's a lot of work to get it to this stage. But what we need is a subcommittee of the circulation committee to now be the editor, so to speak, that we go back in and we are going to check everything, just anything, even from spell check to we've left something out that should be put in, or we want to tweak it a little bit. So of the circulation committee, do I have some people who would be interested in working on that project?
I
I
would,
would.
Okay, so I've got Jen and Terry.
I can too, Leanne.
Okay, so I think that's probably going to be a good amount. What I'm going to try to do is give you a little bit of time, not too much time, but a week, week and a half-ish. And then we'll try to get together. What I need from you guys is a list of things kind of that you already have, so that as we're going through it, we get to page 2. Okay, here's what needs to change. We could just do it kind of on the fly. Diane, is the owner of this. She can kind of at least take notes and correct things. Our goal, I think, would be to get all of this. It would be nice if we could get it done in December, but here's the reality of December. I just don't know that that's going to fly. So I think our goal is January to be able to present it to the executive board at that time. So that is usually the fourth Thursday of the month. And so if that's going to be, that's what we're kind of going to be shooting for. Along with that committee, we need to think about, okay, we're going to have this nice new pristine procedure manual, but what happens when we do upgrades? Things change. Who is going to be the one who kind of monitors that, and how do we want to monitor it so that it doesn't become obsolete in February, when we go to 3.11, so that we can be making changes, or that people who are actually using this could email into us and say, okay, I think this needs to be tweaked somehow. So let's be thinking, that's the other piece of this that we kind of need to get in place before we present it to the executive board, hopefully in January. So committee, do we have questions about what I need from you?
No, but I think, I really feel like part of what the CERC committee's responsibility should be just going forward is pay attention to that all the time. So we're always ready to update that when it needs to be updated or edited or changed. Just
Right.
kind of have that always on the back burner. Like, hey, we're doing that different now. We need to check the manual and get it up to speed. So
Totally.
ideally.
Yeah, that's in a perfect world, that is what was happening. Would be what was happening. I just kind of maybe want one or two people kind of that's maybe their assignment or their ongoing thing, because I don't know about the rest of you all, but I get busy just doing the most urgent thing that's coming down the pipe that has to be taken care of. And so I do want it to be, I agree with you, Terry, everybody needs to be involved in the process, but we need somebody who's going to be, okay, who's the one who's really going,
Right.
the buck's going to stop here.
And
kind of.
maybe that'll iron out as we get into it. We'll figure out, hey,
Probably.
I'm really excited about this. I'm going to pay attention to this. And I will say that not as good as Diane, because I think she is the king, queen, and guru of all things CERC training manual. But that's one thing I really focus on in my library is keeping my CERC procedure manual up to date.
Yeah.
And at least more than once a week, I'm in there editing something. So, maybe that'll end up being me that helps you. But for now, I like the idea of a bunch of us looking at it for sure.
Yeah, I think many eyes will catch those things, and Diane's pretty perfect, so we may not find much, but even if we just, whatever, we want to get it as good as we can. Yeah, okay. All right, old business. There's still a few libraries that have not got that whole transit slip corrected. I was able to work with Equinox. There was a little bit of going back and forth, and the default hold transit slip, that piece of code has been removed. So here's the deal. If you go back and hit default, it will always be gone. But if you have customized your hold transit slip, made a font bigger, changed something on there, you have two options, I guess. You could note what your changes are, go back, hit the default to where it's taken out permanently, and then go re-enter your changes, which would be a more sure way of keeping it down the line, that, you don't do something on your computer and now all of a sudden it's back. It's back. The other thing they suggested that you can do if you have customized your template is to make sure it's out of your template and then save it locally. That is not quite as sure a deal as the other way, but it is, those were the two suggestions that Equinox gave so that this would become pretty much a non-issue. Questions about what I just...
So our problem with that is continuing to be that at our main branch, we're fine. Our slips are fine. But we set up a new manager over in our one branch that we have. I don't know why in the world it affected the slip printing over there, but all of a sudden they're not printing correctly. It'll print the hold slip for the patron, but it doesn't print the transit slip correctly. We can't, and our tech completely copied everything from over here as far as settings and went over there and did it. And we cannot get them to set up the way we do over here all of a sudden, or the way it was doing there. And I don't know if, and I think he's been talking to Equinox, but still it's not resolved yet.
Hmm.
So what you just told us, maybe that's new information. I'll make sure our tech is aware of those two ideas.
Right, at least if you went back and hit the default, that would get it back to what Equinox default is, and then you could go in and make your tweaks too.
Okay,
And then
okay,
make sure to save locally.
Locally.
And it's each and every circulation computer,
right.
not just one of
Well,
them.
luckily they only have one over there, so
Oh,
yeah.
well, that
Yeah,
makes it
yeah.
easier.
Okay, well, good information. I need that. Thank you.
Okay. The next one is just a secondary reminder to update your circulation contacts. And you would do that by sending corrections to Ron Eifert, and I've got his email on the agenda there. But it's really important that we keep that list up to date. At this point, there's one library that it says vacant, and then it has an email for their director, but I'm going to be probably calling them to see if they can identify somebody that they could make even if it is the director, which would be fine, but so that we have an actual name on that, for that library also. But email to Ron. He has graciously said he'll collect whatever comes in and make the changes on the website. So just a secondary reminder on that. And then under other, we are not having a circulation committee meeting in December because I'm taking that day off. I figured there would be quite a few people that are still embroiled in the whole Christmas week that it sometimes turns into. So I have saved our one, we have one more meeting that we have to do 10 out of 12. And so I had saved that one when I saw that date. So no meeting in December. We'll all be still in the throes of Christmas. So, all right, I want to open it up. Is there anything else that someone would like to bring before the committee?
Can I ask a question, Rhonda?
Oh, sure.
Oh, and first of all, thank you for getting with Equinox and getting that default without the patron info. But when you talked at the very beginning of the meeting about the patron purge, we have completed our deletions.
Mhm.
Should we go ahead and let Equinox know, or are they just waiting till a certain date to just do it all?
It is my understanding that yes, they are waiting until the agreed upon date. So at this point, I do not think any of the libraries need to do anything. They can just go in, and anything that's been deleted in Missouri Evergreen is now going to be, as of that date, will be purged.
Okay. Could they go ahead and do it? And the reason I ask is because after we completed it, like in the following week, we had like 2 people come out of the woodwork that had expired like 5 years ago. And they somehow still had their library card, which we could no longer use because they were deleted but not purged.
Right.
And it's such a random thing. Like that's probably not going to happen again between now and the time the Equinox does it. But so it's really not that big a deal. We just had to give them another free library card, but it's, it was just it's always the way things happen. As soon as you get rid of something, it's like, hey, guess what?
Exactly.
Yeah, we've had the same scenario too. And we actually had a case where I had run the report and it pulled up, and then I didn't finish going through because we had so many. So it was the second day that we actually had a patron that came in that was on the purge list from the day I ran it, but she had come in that next day and renewed her card, checked something out, and then I hit it at deleting her.
Oh no. Oh, no.
So we had to go and issue a new card, just check the book in, check it back out on a new card. And I was like, what are the chances of that time frame?
Exactly.
This person that had expired, I think, in 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, Equinox won't do this for us one at a time.
Right.
It had,
Okay, that's good to know.
I was purging people. Actually, I was sending a report out to the branch managers. Made me one of their favorite people, of course, saying that would you please one by one purge these accounts every month to get rid of these things, because otherwise when you run a report, you can, unless you have gone in and done all this editing yourself, you're going to end up with a report that, you know, a quarter of the patrons aren't even active anymore. They've been deleted. So that was getting pretty frustrating. So I was having the staff do this. And then I found out that there was a library or two in Missouri Evergreen that Equinox was purging for them. So I said, hey, I want part of that action. And then it was decided they can't do this for 65 libraries. Somebody this week, somebody else 3 weeks later, all that stuff. So they said, you delete them, and anything that's been deleted in January or sometime February before we do your upgrade, we'll purge all of them all at once.
Thank you, Diane. That's kind of what I thought, because it was one of those like, so I figured if I just ask here instead of asking them.
Probably a good idea.
And we are still working on ours very slowly. And it's going to take a long time because we were so early and we didn't have the checkbox for the group member, and we just have notes that we have to look at everyone. And so there is still no thing from Equinox that if they find anything expired old, that they're just going to delete without our.
No, it's
Yeah,
only
for
what we have deleted. And here's the good news. Next year, we'll be reminding you to do this again. But, you know, so if you don't, here's the thing. I hesitate to say if you don't get it all done, it's not going to make any difference. But the reality of it is you will have next year to catch up some. And every year we're going to, you know, keep doing this. So nobody's going to come along behind you and say, oh, that library didn't get it done. It's really for your own protection, so that if, God forbid, there ever is a breach in our system, that you do not have a 1,000,000,005 patrons to notify that may not even be your patron anymore. So anyway, like I say, if you don't get it all done, nobody's going to come after you. And
but I assume for the organization that that Equinox or something they're probably going to check once in a while to make sure that some libraries, you know, I can see some small libraries not having a clue and never doing it ever.
Right.
So, you know, but we are working on it.
At some point, possibly not this first year, because I mean, I don't know about you, but I had a ton of people and I know other libraries had a lot of people to delete too. So every year I think it's going to get easier and easier because we're caught up, so to speak. So okay, anything else? All right, not hearing anything. I am going to close the meeting. Hope you guys have a wonderful December and wonderful Christmas, and we'll be back in January. See y'all later.